Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be doing my out-of-box review for the HGUC Neo Zeong, and it is a very, very large kit. I had to throw my wide-angle lens here on my camera in order to even get this thing like in a proper shot, so excuse the kind of mess off to the sides of the frame there that you're seeing. But yeah, my photo space here is pretty large, and I intended it to be large enough for some pretty big kits, but there's just no way. I mean, unless you have like a full-on like photo studio backdrop, there's no way you're gonna be able to get this thing in any sort of camera view. So it's just ridiculously big. I'll give you guys. I thought well, I want to do this basically in a couple different parts. First, I just want to show you guys the size comparison. First off, just so you guys can see, kind of help to get an idea, because it's kind of hard to grasp. I mean, we've all seen photos of it and everything, and maybe you've seen it in other videos, but until you think you've seen it, like you're seeing it face to face and like building it and like seeing it come together, how crazy huge this thing is. Okay, so obviously the kit and the Sinanju there are in 1/144 scale, and the Sinanju is a pretty large 1/144 scale kit, but there you can see is the perfect grade strike, and this thing is making the perfect grade strike look like a master grade, I think, by comparison. So the perfect grade strike is 160 scale, basically about half this, double the size. So yeah, it's a very, very large kit and very heavy kit. And it's, yeah, you can see where the price tag is coming in just by the sheer amount of plastic with this kit. Obviously, this thing is going to be way too heavy for me to put on my rotating base, so I'm not going to be able to spin this around, but I will give you some different, I'll turn it and give you guys a look at the different angles around the kit, but basically it's going to be the kind of thing that you're going to want to buy it and build it and put it one spot where you're never going to have to move it again because it's just ridiculously huge. So just to quickly go over a few things about the mobile armor itself before we get into some more details. Just here in the upper body, we've got some really nice detail, I think, in these parts, especially for the mega particle cannons. These bits here on the side of these kind of shoulder panels do open up. Some nice detail inside there as well. But that's basically for the Psycho Shard effect part, which was a P-band I said. I'm not planning on getting that, so you guys probably won't see that here. It's just a little bit over the top for me, so yeah, that opens up. Obviously, these front panels here open up for docking in the Sinanju there. We'll look at that in a minute. You can see the majority of the color here is in all this dark red color, which is pretty nice. But then we do have this darker red, which is almost kind of like a brownish color here, and a couple other spots. And then we have a few different tones of gray, kind of standard gray, kind of bluish gray, and then a light gray, as you can see, like for up in here in the arms and for those, as said, medical particle cannons there, as well as for the eye field generators, which are these circle bits here around the side of the waist, and kind of the mega cannon here in the center as well. For the mobile armor itself, there are a few stickers for it. There's one big Neo Zeong sticker on the back. We'll get to that in a minute. There's a couple of little white stickers up in here. Those are little white stickers. These white vents here, you can see in the front, those are actual white parts. Then we have some white parts on the fuel tanks as well, and the white parts on the vents on the back, kind of back side of the arms here. There are also a few little stickers here, a bunch of these little white line stickers will go around here on the forearm, and this little gap here in the forearm. I didn't really bother putting those on. There's obviously a bunch of those. There's 6 arms times 4. I didn't really feel like putting on 24 of those little white lining stickers, but you guys get the idea. There would be little white lines around there anyway. There's obviously not going to be a whole lot of articulation involved here, really. These front skirts will move a little bit, not really to do all that much. The arms, though, of course, will move a little bit here, so we have some movement up there at the top, and then they can rotate there as well. And then this actual kind of elbow joint, what that would be, actually kind of like locks into place. So that's the kind of locked position there, and then you just kind of slide that out, and then you can bend that up to about 90 degrees. As you can see, the hand fell out. This, or kind of, I guess you could call it hand. These are the wired large funnel bits, of which there are 30 of these, 5 on each arm. And obviously we don't have actual wires for those. Kind of would have been cool if that was included, at least for like one of the hands, to be able to actually set these out like on wires, but you'd have to just wire that up. You'd have to basically just take that off and then wire something up yourself. I don't think it would really be the hardest to do. Just find like a large enough gauge wire, maybe set in some putty in there to that, because there's kind of like not really anywhere to plug that wire unless you're going to plug it straight into that hole in the center of there. But anyway, you could wire that up or something if you like. I think that would be pretty cool and might be something I might look into for mine, just for some added effect. As we come around to the back here, you can see where there's that sticker on the back skirt. We do also have the option of using this waterslide decal, which is included for this, which is nice. And it would have been nice if we had a kind of more substantial waterslide decal set for this, but at least we have the one for the main marking there. But overall, just some more really cool shapes and details all around here. I really like this kind of shape of this part, which comes around here. Again, these other parts, which are kind of used for the Psycho Shard effect there. And just how huge that back skirt is and how far it extends out. Like when you're looking at the kit from the front, you think, wow, it's huge and it's tall, it's crazy, but it's incredibly deep as well, just because of that gigantic back skirt. And then of course we have the 4 arms stuck on the back there as well, which are just kind of in their kind of, I guess we would call that inactive position, right? These of course can be moved and manipulated a bit as well, so you can kind of just slide those out and bend these around. You can turn it around to face up and over the shoulder, really not that much. Let's see, maybe turn it the other way. There we go. If you turn the base joint of that and then turn that around, that's how you're going to get it like maximum over the shoulder. And there you can see the couple of the other white parts I mentioned, these vents here in the back of the arms as well. And then of course these can be brought down below the arm as well here, so you can kind of set that out, and this one kind of going around like that, something like that. The thing about these arms, though, is that you have this seam line going all the way down the back of this huge part. That's like a 6 or, about 6-inch seam line down there. Luckily, it's over flat surfaces, so that's easy enough to sand, but that's going to be a fun task trying to remove that seam line. Probably will be much easier to just turn that into a panel line, but we'll see. Going back down below here, you can see where we have another of the white parts are going around at the bottom of the fuel tanks. And then just we can store the extra hand bits, the extra funnel bits there from the hands on the back of the arm. You can keep those on the hands, or you can store them down here on the base. One thing that was actually interesting when I was going through the building process of this is that these fuel tanks actually touch the ground, touch the floor, whatever. I was thinking that the entire thing was actually elevated off of the ground slightly, but actually it's not. So you do have that main clear rod in the center, which is kind of like the main support, but it's definitely also kind of slightly supported, or at least balanced by these. I don't think they're really supporting that much of the weight, but they're definitely just helping to keep the kit like balanced. So it's not like all just on one rod when it could like kind of sway around a bit. It does feel pretty stable because of the weight and just kind of anchor that these fuel tanks give you. Easy enough to just pull the whole thing up off of that, and what I want to do is give you guys a look up underneath here, because I want you guys to be able to see just the kind of detail up underneath the fuel tanks. There's some nice parts there. Up underneath the back skirt, these big huge thruster bells there, which are like shot glass size thruster bells. So there is some nice detail there up underneath the skirt. Yeah, this thing is heavy, and just as a comparison here, you can see how big that is. It's basically the size of like a 3-year-old child. Now I know that big guy is pretty much the star of the show, but I do want to also talk about the Sinanju because it's worth mentioning. Also, this is the original Sinanju HG kit, which I built and reviewed probably a while back. So if you want to see the full review about this kit, you can check that out. Basically what I want to talk about is just kind of cover what you just get with this kit and what's especially new about this kit. I didn't bother building the new one that actually comes with this kit. It's exactly the same anyway. All the stickers, everything is exactly the same. But of course you get the Sinanju and all the marking stickers for that. All that gold lining, everything does look pretty nice. Of course you get the shield, you get the beam rifle, you get a trigger finger, which I have on there currently. We have a set of just closed fists here as well, and then holding hands as well. One holding hand I've got there on the kit, the other holding hand I've got here on the beam axe. And you have a set of beam effect parts, short and long for the 2 beam axes. Those of course can be connected together. Like so. You can connect them into the shield, and you can just hold them separately, and all that fun stuff that we can do with the regular kit. We have our 2 regular beam sabers. Those again can also be just handheld. Very nice beam saber effect parts for those. For all the beam saber effect parts are really nice. So all that's all standard to the regular kit. We of course have the little grenade launcher underneath the beam rifle as well, which again you can plug that onto the inside of the shield if you want. But what is especially new and exciting is the rocket bazookas, and we do have 2 of these. Very, very nice. This is the only way to get these in HD form. I believe that they were maybe included in some other sort of like magazine packing or something. I could be wrong. There may be another way to get them. Otherwise, just through some third-party bootleg or something like that. But anyway, yeah, you get 2 of them with this kit, which is very nice. So obviously, if you're not going to use them, if you're just going to have this thing just like stored up in there, then you've got 2 that then you could use with the other high grade if you want, or whatever. So there's a really nicely detailed, of course. This one part here for the back, this little back piece of ammo, does seem quite loose, and it keeps popping out on me. I tried pressing it in, but anyway, just be careful you don't lose that. our main handle, which I'm noticing is backwards on this one. Sorry about that. The main handle will move forward and back. The side handle will also move forward and back, and this little kind of dongle there at the front will also move a little bit as well. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. But of course, we can collapse this. So you can pull out the front bit there. And after mix matching some parts and throwing things around and connecting things again back together, we get the beam rifle and the rocket bazooka connected together here to make the super duper awesome ultra hyper beam mega rifle launcher cannon. And this thing is awesome. This is probably one of my favorite weapons in like all of Gundam ever, just with the beam rifle, which is already really cool, and then the rocket bazooka, which is already a really cool design, and then combining them together makes for this really, really awesome looking weapon here. The only problem is that this part on the top doesn't really seem to be connected on there very well, so definitely maybe if you want to keep it like this, I would recommend gluing that part in place because it doesn't really seem to be very strong. Could be something I'm doing wrong, but what about the other bazooka? Well, don't get too sad because we can find a purpose for that one as well. Let's collapse it down as well. This one is a little bit more simple, basically just to kind of take off the cameras on the top, switch the barrel to this short barrel, and then you add in this little handle here, and then you've got this connected into the shield as well. Also very, very cool. I love that, the shield with the rocket bazooka attached into it. You're just going to hold on to that shield just kind of for some extra stability there. The manual recommends you to do this kind of underhand grip here, but the shield mount will allow you to plug this onto the side or the back of the arm. You can try to kind of take your pick. I think I would prefer on the side, but kind of under the arm does kind of make sense as well, especially if you like underarm grip weapons. Looks a little bit goofy though. I think just it kind of looks better probably on the side or just like not handheld. But overall, still a very cool weapon. But now you're wondering, well, we got these barrels. Now what are you going to do with these? And for that, we're going to come back up here to the top where we are going to remove these panels and show off where we've got our weapon storage system. So this part here will fold up. I really like this game. It's so satisfying how that just kind of opens up like that. It seems so natural. And then we can carefully remove these front panels here. Or less than carefully, whatever. And as you can see, we've got some nice detail on there. Basically missiles, I guess, is what those are supposed to be. And then we have this extra little part here. We can plug onto that. So it's not an actual opening gimmick. It's just a little extra part thing that you have to do just to kind of fake it. Yeah, it would have been nice if that was an actual moving part, but not really that big of a deal, I think. So, and then we can take our bazooka, or our rocket bazooka, and then plug it into there like that, so like it's coming out like we saw in the animation, how the bazooka kind of popped out of there. And you can just sort of simulate that by just having the bazooka tip in here. Now if you're wondering if you can also do that with the just shorter one, no, it doesn't work in there, so it's only going to work with just the longer one, and it is very solid. It's a very stable connection for that. Before we move on, one other thing I'll quickly mention that you get with this kit is this piece here. If you do want to take off the fuel tanks and then just kind of drop this guy down to the deck without those giant fuel tanks on there, you're just going to replace that clear rod with this little short rod here, just to kind of keep that onto the base. Anyway, to get the Sinanju in place, we've got to remove a few of these parts here, these parts from underneath there, these parts from this front section here. And there you go, as you can see inside there, kind of the main body of this. If you guys didn't watch, I live streamed the entire building process of this on my Twitch channel, so make sure you follow me and subscribe on Twitch and all of that fun stuff. It was really cool, this kind of like inner skeleton, basically what it is, this kind of inner piece. There's like a rod piece that you put together like inside that, so that it's actually 2 layers thick of really thick plastic for this kind of main support beam for that in there, which is quite interesting. And basically to fit this Sinanju in there, you're just kind of fold its legs back, and apparently it's as simple as that. There is a little peg inside there which will peg into his action base connector. Now these fuel tanks, those go over that middle part or under, I'm guessing over. And it's going to be a little bit of a act to get this guy into there, crammed in there. Let me try this here. This is obviously my first time trying this. Whew. Okay, so it surely takes some finagling, but he's in there now. We'll just close him in by closing up these panels once again. As for these panels here, which will plug onto this kind of main center part there, you notice there's also a little connection point here. You can plug these over kind of off to the side if you did want to have the Sinanju's arm out and like holding the beam rifle or holding the bazooka or whatever. You can just plug that onto there, and then you can actually have his arm holding whatever weapon you want out of there like so. You can get that out more if you open up this panel again as well. But that's also a kind of interesting feature if you didn't want to have him completely enclosed, if you wanted to have him touting one of his cool weapons. Also, these little connector bits for the opening armor panels on the front can be stored here if you aren't going to use them, so you will not have to worry about losing these or anything. You just plug these right there onto the base as well for storage. That's convenient. So that is pretty much going to wrap it up for this review, guys. Like I said, the kit really doesn't do a whole lot, so there's really not a whole lot to talk about, but I think I covered pretty much everything. If there is something that I missed that you know of, you can let me know, of course, in the comments section down below. But yeah, the main thing of this kit is just to be huge and impressive, and that it does certainly very well. But the Sinanju, of course, is a full, really nice HG kit in there, so of course you could have that mounted, and you could do plenty of things with the Sinanju as well. You could set it up so that it's like standing up inside of there. You can have it just like standing at the base, or like if you want to get creative, just use your own action base and whatever in there. I know you guys are probably wanting to see me set up like sort of final battle scene with the Banshee and the Unicorn in here as well, but it's just really not going to fit into this space really very well. I suppose I could, but so yeah, building this kit was really interesting and a fun experience just because of how huge and different it is. It's fairly unique, and it was just crazy just to see it all come together, just how huge it was. I mean, you're working with these really huge parts, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you're building it up, and it's just kind of a crazy experience. So really fun experience. Hopefully that was entertaining or interesting for you guys who watched on Twitch. Again, if you don't follow me on Twitch, the link for that is down below. And so all of that said, is the kit really worth it for the price? I mean, yeah, it's a very, very expensive kit. And then plus whatever shipping costs to wherever you live. It's a very big, very heavy box, as you guys may have saw in the unboxing. And so it's not going to be cheap by any means, but is it worth it? Yeah, it just really depends. If you're a really big fan of the Unicorn series in general, like full frontal or just like huge mobile armors or Zeon mobile armors especially, or just you just want to try building a really huge, impressive kit, then yeah, it's something. It's definitely going to be an investment. I mean, not only just an investment of the money, but a huge investment of time. I mean, just you don't really have to paint. This is one of those kits that even just building it just straight out of the box like this and not doing anything else to it, it's going to be impressive just for its sheer size. But if you're going to actually be painting the kit, it's going to be a huge investment. I know a lot of people are going to be asking in the comments, like, am I going to paint this kit, or what am I going to do with the kit now? I do plan to paint the kit, of course. I just don't know when that's going to be. Eventually, it's going to take a really, really long time. It's going to take probably like a month just to get it prepared to even start painting, just for all the seam line removal that's going to be involved. I pointed out the seams on the back of the arms. There's a few other seam lines as well on like kind of the upper arm joints, as well as the huge fuel tanks. And then some of the gates, obviously the parts are quite large, so some of the gates were quite large as well and kind of messed up some of those. So we'll have to do a little bit of putty work on those as well, just to kind of fix some goofed up gates, and then just sanding, a lot of sanding on these huge parts, so you have some kind of like mold lines and everything, just kind of like not flash, but just like that little bit of like mold line flash going around the edges, and just a lot of surfaces are going to need sanding. Yeah, so my paint plans for this, I have been thinking about it a little bit, and of course I'm not going to go with just the standard original colors. No, that's just too boring. I have to do something custom about it. I have to make it different in my own way. So I do have a couple ideas, and I think that'll be really cool. So I'm looking forward to that process, sort of. It's going to be a lot of work, but I think it will be really, really cool once it's done. I mean, just as it is, it's pretty amazing. Once it's fully custom painted and panel line and decal and all of that, it's going to be even more cool. So that's something to look forward to in the future. In the meantime, yeah, this kit, aside from the price, the other thing about this kit is that it just takes up a lot of space. But man, I just have to give the hugest shout outs to Cody. This kit was actually gifted to me by just a fan of my channel, I guess. Cody, I don't want to give his last name. I don't know how anonymous he wants to remain, but he knows who he is. Thank you so much for this, man. This is definitely a crazy experience, and yeah, wow, it's going to be a really fun kit to work on. Even more in the future, just the whole process of just building this is pretty amazing. So I gotta say, guys, it is nothing short of impressive. And whether you're a fan of the design or not, I'm sure there's people out there who are gonna be like, man, that thing is so ugly, I wouldn't want that. Yeah, even if that's the case, I mean, you just have to admit that this thing is just impressive just for its sheer scale. It's pretty crazy. So hopefully this review has been helpful for any of you guys who have been maybe on the fence about whether you want to buy this kit or not. If you do, of course, have any other further questions or comments, leave those down below and I'll get to that. I think I pretty much covered everything though. It's a pretty amazing kit, to be sure. So thank you guys, as always, so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.